Steve.
What are you going to be speaking to the police about?
It's not what I... Yeah, I'm going to lay down the law. It won't be... Well, I've got to... I even bring a book round.
Steve, you know what the topic is now?
What?
About Mo Deen throwing water over Sophia. What's your views?
Content over everything!
It's just pretty disgusting, isn't it? And apparently...
What do you think he's like Rick James? What do you think?
Who?
James.
Rick James. Who's Rick James? It is said that he was. It has been just said that Mo was just frustrated that she turned him down. So maybe that's what it was all about. But either way, it's disgusting. And
Did Simon say his name was?
who?
Simon's
Who's Simon? Who's Simon? But apparently the police's reaction was, oh, well, if he does it again, or if he does something again, he'll get a warning, or he might get a ban.
Do you think that's because...
So you can throw something in someone's face, and that's not significant enough to...
But do you think that's because he's Muslim?
Say again?
Do you think that's because he's Muslim?
Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe.
What I find weird...
Say again?
What I find weird is, you know, earlier we were talking about the Tommy Robinson supporters who pulled someone off the ladder.
Yeah.
You were very specific that it was some of them.
Well, on that precise point, clearly it was some of them. It wasn't all of them. They couldn't have reached him.
Absolutely. But when it comes to Islam, you pick out Mo as an example, representing all
Well, but that's the problem, isn't it? The vocal Muslims that come to Speaker's Corner are very, very bad representatives of humankind, aren't they? The vocal ones. I'm not talking about the quiet ones in the background.
So therefore, when it comes to Mo, you should say some of them. Like Mo,
I always try to be careful that whatever I say, I never say all Muslims. Don't think I've ever said that. I'm very conscious of not ever saying that, because it's not all Muslims, self-evidently. People like to make out that I do, but I never, ever do.
I mean, frankly, I'm not on either side.
But you know, the Islamic faith has to sort out their PR, their representatives, because the ones that represent the faith at Speaker's Corner are diabolical. You know, thuggery, low IQ, ignorance, hate. I mean, there are some of them that clearly are a little bit more intellectual than others, but even those ones don't seem to speak out and deal with the others, with the thuggery, with the idiots. They go very, very quiet, which is that because this Muslim thing about you never criticise your Muslim brother publicly, whatever they do. Well, they need to ditch that rule because it's not helping them at all.
Question: did Andrew Chadwick used to come?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Did
he
he?
did about 2014, 15, 12.
What, just once or twice, or
Come
regularly?
here, but I weren't there by then. He come out of jail.
Because I would have been coming here then, and I never saw him.
He used to be here.
Yeah, was a lawyer, you know.
Yeah, he was.
He used to do street dawah.
He used to do street dawah, but I didn't think he ever physically came to Speaker's Corner.
Once at least, I don't know what year.
Right. Okay.
He's down there, by the way.
We know it. Camden.
He's back on road.
So if you could set the rules,
If I could what?
if you could set the rules,
If I could set the rules, yes. About what?
about Speaker's Corner,
Speaker's Corner,
how
right.
we can improve it, what would you do?
Well, I think like the last person that gave an interview to Leon, that the police have to be much more active in dishing out exclusion orders. They should have a much lower tolerance of misbehaviour here, i.e. physical violence, physical, threats of physical violence or actual physical violence.
Has that actually happened? Where
So apparently last week when Joseph Cohen was doing their moment there, apparently someone said, and apparently it's even on recording, that someone's head was going to be cut. And that person, as far as we know, is still walking the street. Yes, but that's the precise sort of thing. What I said: actual physical violence or direct threats for physical violence. The police need to start having a zero tolerance, and those people should be immediately excluded.
Has that already been done?
Well, it's not zero tolerance. Like the example we've just given of today, that person has now not been excluded. Mo Deen, yes. And clearly throwing a drink in someone's face is a physical attack. None. But people that regularly coming here have done it, and they've had counter-terrorism knocking on their door because of
What do you
it.
think should happen for someone throwing a drink in someone's face?
They should be excluded for a period. It's been reported, yeah, it has. That's why I know she reported it.
Steve, I have a question.
I'm not. It doesn't matter. That was just today's example of an assault.
Do you actually know what happened? Like, do you actually know what happened?
Yes, it's on video. It's on video. I've tweeted the video clip. Mr. Rax videoed it. Yeah, he had like a squirt. It was like a squirty bottle of cloudy lemonade or something, and he was going like that. So look. It'll be on Mr. Rax's channel. I've tweeted it. It's publicly available. And then what he did, he ran over to a group of Muslims over there and said, "Oh, she's just insulted the Prophet. She's just insulted the Prophet." He didn't actually, for once, maybe it's because it's who he is, didn't get any reaction from them. He then scarpered out the park and hasn't returned, as far as I'm aware.
Wow.
So he knew he'd done wrong.
Yeah, that's too.
So, but there are a lot worse examples of physical violence. Leon. Do you mean what did Sophia say?
Yeah.
What did she say? Oh, what, that instigated?
I'll take Leon.
Look at the video. It's all on the video. I can't remember the direct thing, but it's from start to finish. It's all clear and it's really clear video. So there's no.
But isn't there another chap, Omar, that was banned?
Mm-hmm. Well, he was the one that had counter-terrorism knocking on his door because he threatened to behead Danny Tomo or Jamie Goddard. I think it was Jamie Goddard.
So it is happening, right? Where people are getting banned.
Yeah, there are examples of it. But your question to me was what if I was but he was back here a few weeks ago. Your question to me was what would I do if I was in charge? And one big example I'd give was a much lower tolerance of any of this stuff. Zero tolerance. Because of the reality of what's happened here. You have to be. But, that's going to take a lot of police resources. But hopefully it wouldn't be needed for very long because...
There was only coming up to 2 hours.
What if we introduced a law where speakers going to self-govern itself, where if there was a majority vote? Yeah.
Well, nothing does that. That's why we have law enforcement agencies. Yeah, how can it... it does. That is one good thing I have to say about Speaker's Corner. Often it does self-police itself. And you see people quickly pulling people apart and dealing with it. And often when things kick off, it resolves itself quite quickly without the police. So it does self-police itself already, and that's good.
There's been a few conversations I've overheard over the past couple of weeks that something's going to happen really bad.
Someone will be stabbed or something.
Eventually,
It's been in the past. There's been years ago.
Oh, really?
Stabbing. Yeah, about 2 years ago, Negate there. Big Bros talks about it. Big Bro took.
Someone was stabbed
a year and a half
outside
ago.
the Weatherspoons, when there was a Weatherspoons at the bottom of Edgware Road.
How far back is that?
That's outside Weatherspoons, Steve.
Yeah, I know. It was in the vicinity.
What year was
So
it?
yeah,
You can get stabbed outside Weatherspoons because everyone's fucking drunk.
7 years ago.
And the person used to come here.
They had been here that day.
Anyway, Steve, we know you've got the exclusive. What's happening at the end of November with Speaker's Corner?
I know.
I don't know the
Yes, you
detail.
do.
I do not know the detail.
We don't need the details. What's that broad strokes?
There's
Facts.
What's happening?
the police, and I think in the Royal Park, for
There's a
once,
meeting on
for once
Thursday.
there's a meeting on Thursday. For once, they're working together. They're meeting. They're
you're
meeting.
going to
Well, only because they asked. There's a meeting which I think the police are going to discuss their proposals. Now, whether there'll be proposals or whether there'll be this is what we're going to do, guys, like it or lump it, I don't know.
Is that the meeting Bob was asking you to go?
Who was invited to this meeting?
Anyone can.
Leon was invited. Raspect was invited. Maku was invited. I think Raven's been invited. So that's some people in gang, but there's been a broad range of
Why
people
wasn't
that have been
I
invited. Muslims, Christians, gang, atheists.
Where is the meeting held?
Well, I'm not. It's not an open meeting, so I can't.
Oh,
What about the agnostics? Were they
What about the cheesemakers? Were they invited?
They never get them.
So basically,
Anyone in Weatherspoons invited?
so as I say, I don't know whether they're going to be sharing suggestions with us and want the view, or whether it's just going to be this is what's happening.
but you're invited.
Yeah. So we'll see. So this time next week,
You'll find out.
which box am I in?
Are you an atheist?
I am. Yeah.
At least because one atheist.
Indeed.
representing.
Yeah, I think there'll be one or two of us. So we wait to hear. But at the end of the day, they've had to put a lot of resources into this place. They can't afford. They haven't. They're completely under-resourced. They can't afford to keep sending scores and scores of people to Police Speaker's Corner. So they're going to have to do some things. And I wonder whether some of the things they're going to do we might not like. We might not think they're good.
Such as?
Well, it's really, really and truly, how much time do people call police in Speaker's Corner to come down?
No, I'm talking about whether they're called or not. There have been some weeks in recent months where there's been scores of them.
I know.
We had 4 police horses there a few weeks ago. There wasn't a specific protest at all.
Well, if
It was a
if
DFLA
certain
thing.
group's going to come down to make their protest on freedom of speech or to call people niggers in Speaker's
Oh,
Corner.
who's done that apart from Tan, who's used that word? Who else has
People
done
are
that?
gonna do- Yeah, but they come down to stand with them.
Who?
Stand up for the DFLA and all them sort of guys.
What, are you saying the DFLA have come here and used that word?
No, but they're too smart to do that. They'll stand by side someone that will do that rather than.
So your issue is people that might be thinking it inside their head but don't say it? How do you know they're thinking it inside their head?
I don't know what anyone's thinking. I'm not trying to say
motivation is
yeah, I'm not saying what anyone's thinking.
Go back to the point that I made numerous times today. The chronology of violence and trouble and intimidation at this corner is not because the DFLA have come,
But do you remember
or anyone of that
Do you
ilk.
remember when Tommy Robinson was here?
Yes,
His
but
supporters
Sarah
threw a punch.
Sarah was issued an Osman warning way before that happened.
No, but
The violence and the problems and the thuggery
been 2
here
years.
completely predate anyone of that sort of ilk coming
years.
here. They have come here in reaction to all that
Yeah, but
increase
they're
in
not good
violence. Is
representation.
that not?
But
They
never
are
come in-
not good
They
representation
never came here to
of good
defend Sarah's
behaviours,
right
right? You agree?
to talk about Prophet Muhammad.
Say
Come
again?
on. They never came here to defend Sarah's right to talk about Prophet Muhammad.
No, because that was a one individual death threat. It wasn't an en masse problem of thuggery. It was one example of it. It was one of the earlier examples
But
of
you
it.
agree they're not good representation of good behaviours, right?
Who?
Like most of his supporters.
Most of whose supporters?
Tommy Robinson supporters.
I completely disagree with that
I
point.
mean, a few of them.
Most of-
punches, the
most of
videos
Tommy-
are on YouTube, and one of them was arrested. He punched
One,
a
the
guy.
biggest problem that Tommy Robinson had when he was a leader of the EDL is, yes, that sort of real racist, real far right, real Nazis wanted to take over the
During the time
EDL,
that they
and
came to
he
the
spent
park.
his entire leadership of the EDL fighting to keep that sort of people out. So
narrative.
yes, those sorts of people will always be attracted to this sort of subject, but it does not make this subject racist because it attracts some people
Okay.
who are
You
racist.
said there could be a couple of options on Thursday, a couple of suggestions. Like
Is anybody open to that meeting?
Well, I mean,
closed
there's a
meeting.
limit to the numbers,
Closed
and
meeting. Just
it's not an open
what do
meeting
you
that
think-
anyone can
what do you
turn
think
up.
could be some of the suggestions made?
I mean, there's been talk, and I don't know whether any of this will be
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
That they might, I don't. That they might stop filming. I don't know how
No, that's
practically they
bad,
can do
bro.
that.
No, I don't
It might be that they
coming out of shop.
that they increase that they have plinths here, so there will be plinths provided for people to stand up upon. Yeah, it could be a WWE cage match with a ladder. Because part of the solution, which I absolutely think, is that we need to encourage more and more people to come here generally to speak
Yeah.
on a bigger range of topics.
So do
like
I.
like it used to be. To be honest, it wasn't
So
all
do
bloody
I.
religion,
So do
and
I.
it's great. I mean, they're complete nutcases in my view, but it's brilliant the fact that the flat earthers are coming. And that the vegans are coming. We need more people to come and speak on all subjects. Whether they're left-wingers, whether they're right-wingers, whether they're vegans, it doesn't matter. We need more
whatever.
people. And the other thing, this used to be a real
Get
tourist
fed up with
attraction.
this.
And you used to get families come in with their kids come in. Who wants to bring their kids here now when there's all this violence and intimidation? Women is the other thing. Women are being sexually assaulted here.
Really?
Yes.
In the crowds. I'm
Yes. Yes.
Not
They're
naming
being
names.
groped.
What?
Hatun was about a month ago.
I met
weren't there.
Hatun.
You know, there's
few
all these
weeks
boys.
ago.
they
Did she
just
say
go,
that?
I'm
She
not saying
corroborates
names.
that. Does she corroborate that? Yeah.
Go
I heard
to,
online.
go to medium.com and I've written
Medium.com?
medium.com.
Yeah, some girls get like
medium.com.
you know when it's really
And then
packed,
search
some
on
boy just
Speaker's
walk past
Corner,
and give it a squeeze.
and I've done
like
loads
that.
of articles on there, but I've done one following an interview with her. I was shocked. And other people have come up to me since that article and
Like when there's crowds,
given
so
me
someone
other
can get his
examples.
bag and go like that. And
Sexually
you never see him again.
groped, tits grabbed,
No,
bums
that's
grabbed,
hard
in
to get.
Speaker's Corner.
That's hard
In
to get to
Speaker's
someone's
Corner.
thing. But the behind, you can say you barged into them and all that.
And as
So-
I say, since I put that article up, other
seen
people
that.
have come up to me and told me other examples. So, you know, well, I know it's always been a bit male-dominated here, but, you know, what woman is going to want to come here if that's the sort of crap that goes on as well?
That's horrible.
We've got to open up this place to more people, families,
want
women,
different
everyone.
people and
It should be a safe place for people to come. A safe space. I think I'd say that.
Oh no, don't start safe spaces. You'll never be able to say anything.
But all I mean by that is, i.e., without risk of bloody violence and threats of violence or being sexually assaulted.
I shouldn't even name safe space.
Yeah,
I don't know how
that's my
someone
new
can get
handle.
to someone's breast though.
Did she describe like a
I don't know.
particular
The back you can, yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard her
Yeah.
say that.
It was about
You can guess who it is.
4 or 5 weeks
But the other
ago.
one, the other one,
line
The
was
reason I
online.
get nervous about that is because it is had to.
And her husband's here, you know.
and the
that
other
as
thing
well.
is, she said
What's
that
What's his name?
It's
the
that
more
Somalian
intelligent,
type of guy.
mature
They're always together.
members
Yeah.
of that group,
Her voice is
she spoke
annoying.
and they didn't want to know. Denied it, pushed her away.
she's
did
listening
not
to this.
listen to it.
Pardon?
So therefore, in my view, they're kind of almost as
doesn't know
guilty
his
as the
face,
actual
is he?
ones that have done it.
She's that small, like kind
She's the Christian preacher, got quite a screechy voice. Yeah, that's the one. But she's a lovely, you know, speaking to her one-on-one, she's a really nice.
Why hasn't she complained?
About 5 or 6 years ago.
This isn't meant to be mocking, but her response is to pray for them.
Oh, please.
Whoever
come on.
that person was.
That doesn't make any sense. She's more than happy at the slight of touches to go and call the.
You would have thought so, but that's
I
the
don't know,
point.
I've seen it.
I know, but
I've actually seen.
But
I've
I've had.
you are fighting with me. I'm going to go to tell the police. So it's a bit inconsistent.
I would have no qualms in doing that, but I know a lot of people say, oh, you know, you're a snitch, blah blah blah. Fuck it. If you're doing anything that's remotely wrong or illegal, straight to the police, and everyone should do that.
Have you done that when you see people smoking hash?
What do you think? What do you think?
Leave
What
the
do you
weed
think?
alone, right?
It does smell nice. It does smell nice. Do you know?
Hypocrisy! Hypocrisy! Hypocrite!
It's
Why
like
you got
do you know what? I was here early. I was here at 11:30. Someone was smoking a joint next to me at 11:30 on a Sunday morning. I guess so. Yeah. But do you know what? It
Don't
was a
tell
Muslim that was
Hassan
doing it,
about
and
it.
a Muslim that makes himself really known. I didn't realise it was him at the time.
Taking
Someone
a break
told me
off.
after.
You have to. So was Shamsi.
So
I've
is
seen him
weed
for
halal?
5 weeks.
Too cold.
Weed
It's too cold for him.
And that, what's that guy's name? Taweed. He's gone for.
Dick pic. We don't call him that. We call him Dick pic.
Well, you know what did Tan say? What did Tan say?
Taweed. I haven't seen him.
Tan said they went on holiday together.
Pardon? Hello there. I didn't see you there. You want to come this side of the camera?
I was going to say that.
You've been standing there for a while.
Like,
Okay.
I heard that someone actually told me once that I was speaking to him about the weed issue in Islam and stuff like that, and he was saying that because we were so ignorant of what it was.
Come this way, we can hear you.
Because we were so ignorant about what it was before.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't agree with this argument, but he said because of how it was before, what we knew about it before, and how little we knew about it before, it was haram, like completely. However, now we know that it has, for example, CBD, THC. You can treat cancer patients with it, etc., etc. With the CBD part. I think they claim that the THC part was haram, so I'm not too sure.
So it's okay for medicinal purposes or just
I don't
smoking
know,
for?
that's the thing, but that's what he tried to say.
Okay. What does the Quran say on this subject? That's the important question.
What does it say? What does it say? What does it say? Doesn't say anything, does it?
I think
Doesn't say anything, does it?
the position on the drugs is that anything that alters the chemistry of your body and that can keep have you out of your senses is haram. Therefore,
But not tobacco, smoking,
I think that
nicotine.
harms your body too, and not in the same way. As
What, arseholes or I think arsehole cracks are definitely haram. Although they're not, because you know the very funny thing, and I have to say this because it was so fucking funny. I often get, even though I'm not gay, I often get a lot of homophobia here from Muslims. Did you not know? But there's one nasty, virulently homophobic twat who was having a real go at me was it last week or the week before? and then moved on to that subject, but then proceeded to ask me to bend over while he fucked me in the arse. Yeah, I'm the one that he was accusing of being gay.
You go, where are you, man? You're doing a good job.
I'm very tatophobic. Well, no, not punaniophobic, tatophobic. So is it true that in Islam, if you're giving cock up someone's arse, you're not gay? But if you're taking cock up your arse, you are gay? Oh, I'm not embarrassing you now.
Me, are you crazy?
But if it doesn't make you gay to fuck a man up the arse, how the fuck do you even get? How do you get erect in the first place if you're not gay?
We're very specific. We say batty man. A batty man is somebody who puts his willy in a bum hole.
But the bum hole that receives it isn't a batty man.
Yeah, that's a batty man.
They're both bad. Well, that would be logic, wouldn't it?
The woman's bum hole.
Yes. What's anal sex with a wife considered in Islam?
That's like when people say you're a batty man, Steve, because you probably do it with your wife. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just asking. No. Okay, well, you're doing a batty man.
Anyway,
Have you thought about it?
I did it with a girlfriend.
Everyone's hiding behind the camera now.
I'm just standing here, like, being honest.
Steve, you're on your own.
What? Look at them all. Naomi will stand with me. Maybe not. Look at all of you hiding behind the camera while he exposes himself even more.
There's 20 people behind the camera.
It's all my fans. Any other questions before we all go home?
There'll be in 400 years there'll be the Steve religion. We'll all be
I mean, fuck tango.
Make sure that you're tatophobic, not homophobic. That's what Steve said.
But Steve, during the time that you've
During the olden days.
during the entire time that you've attended Speakers Corner, are Muslims like the worst, like
What, compared with other groups?
the ones that you hate the most? Like,
I have seen more misbehaviour from Muslims than I've seen from any other group.
yeah.
The only other group that I've ever seen violence from, and this was only twice, is the Catholic Evidence Guild. Where once, there's the Liverpool, they stand here occasionally. I had a green wooden plinth thing with a picture of Mary or Jesus or something on the front. Once one of them jumped off the ladder and headbutted a homeless man and gave him a nosebleed.
Was it that 73-year-old woman that did that? Was it that?
Or Diane? Yeah. No, Diane never had. Oh, that's another interesting subject. So, Catholic Evidence Guild, I've seen physical violence from twice, which was quite interesting. In fact, the Liverpool guy that was here today, he's actually a lawyer, and he punched someone once, and it went to court. And if he'd been found guilty, his entire career would have been ended, but he got away with it.
How did he get off it?
I'm not sure how he got off.
Backhand and all that crap with it.
But I suppose if you're a lawyer, you know how.
Yeah, you had to
wriggle out these things. But Diane, and people love me.
I love Diane. She was
people that love to call me a racist clearly were not here 5-6 years ago or however long ago when Diane was here, because Diane was an absolute and outright racist, and I used to spend more time arguing with her than I spent with anyone else. But it was before the days of everyone videoing everything, really, so it's not particularly...
Passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, she hasn't been here for a while, so I guess.
What do you think?
happened.
Did she die, Diane? Did she die?
Well, she retired to Southend, I heard, and then...
Something good insight to Speakers Corner, thank you.
Also, what happened to Ishmael Blagrove? Why doesn't he come anymore?
I don't know. I don't have much time for him either.
Oh.
Ishmael was not the best.
Speaks the truth.
He was another
Can't they
violent
die about
thug.
everything?
passionate, Steve.
No, he wasn't. He had all the bloody cameras. How many cameras have we got around? He wasn't a nice individual.
Steve,
You're finally here.
I want to talk to you. Hold
He
on, let
was
me
not a
sit
nice individual. He had a problem with women.
I was talking about you today.
I used to work with someone who had the pleasure of his experience.
Dating him or working?
But then it went nasty. And the funny thing was, he phoned her employer to try to get her into trouble, to try and get her to lose her job. He didn't know it was me.
Have you been here?
I knew exactly who it was about. And he was trying to get her into trouble, trying to get her to lose her job, to be pissed off with her. Nasty piece of work. And he'll probably sue me now for libel, because that's all. But it was true, so he'll have to disprove it.
I like the speech he did about the Grenfell Tower.
What did he do?
When he was speaking to that guy from Sky News. And then this is straight after, like the day after when Grenfell burned.
and then he had a conversation with Sky News, and then a really cool guy named talking about how the BBC or something. I'm helping out today, man. One of my cameraman, man.
I don't know what's happened to him because he used to run Rice and Peas media video thing, but it's disappeared.
1 minute, bro. 1 minute, I'm coming.
Do you know anything about Ishmael, Leon? What's he doing now?
Punched him up. He's doing his own documentaries.
Rice and Peas. Wasn't that the name of his
Channel.
Oh, that's years ago. He was in Cuba for half the year.
Oh, really?
A real communist. He broke a hand because of it. He's a real communist.
Is he an actual communist?
I don't know. That's when he lives actually. Box him up properly.
Who would you say, Steve, has been some of the best speakers that have come over the years? Because you've been coming for years.
Debate people.
Would you say some of the
I
best?
mean, I don't agree with his position, but Heiko Koo is clearly the most educated, intelligent, intellectual, knows his stuff, probably more than anyone else. But I absolutely disagree with his political position. But
What is his political stance?
Marxism.
In that form?
So he usually stands.
In that
Yeah,
form?
he'd probably disagree with that, but he stands over there. You do know the guy.
Yeah. He was speaking earlier.
So he's a very good speaker. Martin Besserman used to be a funny speaker in his time. Martin Besserman.
Oh, but Tony
Who would
Allen.
you say? Who are the best speakers that have come here over the time?
From all spectrums.
Blake Grove for me. I wish I
Ishmael.
didn't. I wish I didn't see. Yeah,
That's
I
what I
remember that guy. I love him. I love him.
Guys, what you're talking about the
Ishmael
Grenfell.
Blake Grove. Yeah.
Whatever happened to the Master? Do you remember the Master?
No, I don't think I've seen him.
Black guy used to have loads of beads and he used to shake his beads.
I see.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, you're a historian here, man. You're a historian. Right, so who's a good
Tony
speaker
Allen.
currently?
Tony Allen.
Well, I said Heiko Koo knows
He
his
was in
stuff.
today.
I don't agree
Yeah, he
with
was
him,
in
but
today.
he's
He
a
was
good
in.
speaker.
No,
He
no.
knows himself. He knows how to manage and all that.
Heckle, yeah, heckle a crowd as
I actually
well.
think, what's his name there? Is it Ben? What's the Christian guy? I'm back.
Bob the Builder.
Bob
Bob the Builder.
I think he's a good
builder knows the destroyer.
I think he's a good speaker, as in he can conduct, he can tone the voice strong, he can project his voices.
But what-
Knowledge as well is very good.
But what has changed here? People used to all just stand on a ladder and speak, and then you'd have a crowd
I
round.
know why they stopped
That
that,
has now
people-
changed.
I think it's dangerous. Someone can just not like it and cause some serious
Well,
damage.
there's been that,
we
yeah.
shouldn't
When you fall on your head here, it's concrete.
But I mean, what,
So on the
some
Muslim
say Mohammed
side,
Hijab,
who would you say are the best?
I say, personally,
Mohammed Hijab, the best talker.
no, I say
I think he's
Shamsi.
great.
I say Shamsi.
Oh, Shamsi.
I like
say Shamsi.
Hijab.
I like Shamsi. He's very sincere. I think Mohammed Hijab is.
Hamzat is that ginger one.
He's smart.
Yeah.
He's good. I feel a little bit of a showman at times.
You know, I tell you why I
Just
like
a little
Hijab,
showman,
because
but
Mohammed Hijab can deal with all sorts of like kind of subjects, daily life subjects, and he knows the other kind of isms, issues and stuff like that. Whereas Shams is more Islam.
Yeah.
So I think Hijab he can deal with all sorts of, and bring it into what he wants to. You know,
He tries to
compare it.
avoid
He's
arguments as
fantastic.
well.
He's fantastic as a Muslim speaker.
From the Muslim side, yeah, I say Shamsi and Mohammed Hijab.
well, that should be a standard when we speak. We should try to avoid arguments. I think that should be. If you're trying to teach or learn,
And avoid emotions when you're debating.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, that's one.
you can get
And
too
not
emotional.
get personal.
If you've
And
got a
not get too
serious,
personal, yeah, that's
if
it.
you've got a serious issue you're putting across, then you need to leave all that emotional stuff. If you come here for something different, you can argue, fine, have a laugh.
I do think community checks is important. So if someone come and represent a certain community, and you have people who are not, who actually are losing control, then it's that whoever's part of that community should actually take them to the side and go, brother, sister, whatever. Don't conduct yourself in a, especially on camera.
And remind people that as well sometimes.
Huh?
Remind people of that.
Yeah.
You do a good job of that. You do a good job of that.
I think you're good at
You
mediating.
do.
Peacemaker.
You're good at
Son of God. Peacemaker, man. It's true, isn't it? It's the Son of God. It's a peacemaker, isn't it? It's biblical. New Testament.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that it should be a standard, really, because nothing is learned with back and forth arguments and name calls. Don't get me wrong. You can swear and be vulgar, but if you swear and be vulgar at other people, then I suspect that will be the nature of the conversation. Yeah. Right? So if you're doing a speech, that's one thing. But if you're talking back and forth, then that's why we always see today. You're seeing, But in saying that, maybe a lot of the good conversations we don't actually get to see say on video, which is a problem, right?
A lot of some of the
Steve
best
wouldn't come
conversations I've
anymore.
had,
If
yeah,
you couldn't have that
off camera.
vulgarity, you wouldn't come anymore. Though. And
exactly.
Steve's interested, like, so he likes that bit of vulgarity and all that. Gets you going,
So
doesn't it? Gets you going.
what do you represent, Steve, if anything?
What do I represent?
What do you represent?
Heckler.
Atheism, maybe.
Right? And so,
Comedy, atheism.
are you the most prominent atheist in the park? Would you say?
No, Sophia.
Good one.
How long have you been an atheist for?
One of the
All my
TV
life.
channels here.
Okay, so what made you atheist, or were you born into atheist family?
Oh,
My
he's a big
mum's
man, isn't
Christian, still regularly goes to
I heard it's a
church.
he. Hassan said
My
it's a
dad
big
never
club,
believed,
like,
so
Is it?
maybe I got it from him, I don't know.
Your mum
I
must
just,
be-
I just never believed it. I went to a Christian primary school,
Oh, it's that
COE
guy.
primary
Your
school.
mum must be quite old.
You were just doing that.
Yeah, she is.
Oh,
You're born in
he's got
the
them Karachis
1920s, you know. I mean,
It's not far off.
Is that white
So, yeah, I mean, religious mother,
That's
religious
it.
education, but just never got it. It all seemed crazy from the start.
Have you ever wondered what it might be like if you were religious?
Waste of time.
Yeah. What do you think? Because Christian, you say your family's from, right?
My mum is,
Mum.
yeah.
What do you think is constructed from the Christian culture?
It helps people through bereavement.
And you think that's important?
I can see that's a benefit that it gives.
You're not Christian, so how do you get through bereavement? How do you get through
Accepting it, that it's
What do you do?
well, it's death.
For the atheists out there who are having you being around bereavement, what do they do to give them solace or give them something when they've gone through it?
I'll show you if you want.
Just accept that someone lived their life and it came to an end.
because Steve doesn't give a shit about other humans, do you? That's what it is.
That's part of my theory. I think if you don't believe there's an afterlife, you might treat this life a little bit better. That's my view.
Many atheists say that. Many atheists say that.
Because if you're worrying about the afterlife,
Only about
maybe
3
you may
weeks,
not be
Shams,
treating
you have
this
to be
life
there.
quite so well.
weeks,
And this
that's
planet.
Yeah, because you're not worried about this life. You're not in the moment.
If I was to worship anything, or if I was to take up any religion, it would probably be paganism. And I would worship the sun and the moon and the trees.
Why would you?
Because they're real, and they do genuinely enable my life. I couldn't live without the sun, because it gives the energy. I couldn't live without the plants and the trees, because they give me
Water.
oxygen and sugar. I could not survive without those things. So therefore, if anything
Relationship.
is what's the word?
It's respect for nature.
If anything deserves my
Veneration.
whatever, it should be them.
How would you go around praying or venerating these things?
Well, Well, respecting them, looking after them, taking care of them.
So would you do any
Which
kind
you
of-
can talk about the plants. You can't really say I'm going to affect the sun. But
Or would you do any kind of rituals or anything to do?
I don't know. I mean that's the whole thing about religion. I mean, I often ask myself, why the hell do these barbaric medieval nonsenses survive? And I think it's partly it's tribal, because we're a tribal species, and we like, whether it's a football team or whether it's a religion, we like to be a member of a club, and it gives us warm feelings inside. That's part of it. And we like ritual. We're a ritualistic species. And a habitual species. So therefore, if I'm part of this little club and we like to roll one trouser leg up and do all these weird and
You're
wonderful
Freemason.
things, well, that's obviously what I was
Team far
referring to, then that's kind of why it survives.
far
It brings people together.
But you identify as an atheist, so is there any atheist rituals that is practiced?
No, because all atheism is lack of something.
Right. But
Just
you
I
think-
don't have religious belief. That's all it is. It's not a club. Humanists, on the other hand, do, and I don't really appreciate humanism, because I think it's just like pretending that they're religious by creating these bits and bobs. I'm just an atheist because I don't have religion. I don't need to create something to like replace it or
But
to mirror
to
it.
identify as atheist, that means you give a lot of emphasis on religion, because you identify as a
I
non-religious
probably
person.
do personally.
Right.
I come and rant about it a lot.
Right,
yeah.
yeah. Like
But there could be an atheist that is completely silent on their atheism, because all it is they don't have something.
well, they might not necessarily identify as atheists because it's too much credit given
Well, maybe
to...
they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
They don't
So,
use the word.
like-
They don't think about it.
For example, if someone believes in leprechauns, right? They won't make a word for anti-leprechaun. They just would.
Well, if I believed in leprechauns, I'd probably keep it quiet.
Probably best.
And that's the other thing. If religion was
A
private
Muslim shut in freeze
and kept within people's houses or their
I wanna see
bedrooms,
how
then
it's done.
to me
If I
that
can
would
do
be
it.
a huge improvement.
But what's wrong with religion not being private?
Because invariably it ends up being forced down other people's throats,
Do you feel
or it
that-
tries to impose itself
streaming
on
as
people,
well?
or it tries to impose its rules and
Am I?
laws and rituals on other people, rather than just being private for themselves.
Which
Which is why I probably do have more times for Jews, because Judaism is not an evangelical religion, in my understanding, whereas Christianity and Muslims and Islam is. So it's like they have a duty to force it down my throat.
What do you like most about Islam?
What do I?
What do you like most about
What do I
Islam?
like?
What do you like most about Islam?
Because you know when I'm holding the camera.
Bizarrely, I've been told that I would make a very good Muslim,
I don't-
so I don't really.
Yeah, I don't wanna-
to be honest, I
because
can't
it
answer your
doesn't seem
question.
to-
And that's the thing. It might
Oh,
be
no, that's why-
beneficial to actually start thinking about benefits that.
Well,
other things have.
I've got 2 copies of the Quran by my bed, but it's very heavy going, and there's a lot of horrible shit in it.
So you started reading, right?
I have read it, but to
You
be
haven't
honest,
got, yeah. You haven't got through like the first chapter or the first page.
I
yet?
can't remember how far I've got.
But what about the Muslim community? Because if you haven't read the Quran, but what about the Muslim community? Is there anything you've seen in the Muslim community that you think I actually really appreciate? That's something that I would like to push onto my life.
Sometimes they stick together.
I need to get
Extreme
this,
close up.
because I've got a couple of bones to pick this thing.
Content over everything. From your melody.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Clearly, there is charitable, good work that's done for some aspects of humankind, which is a good thing.
I think religion.
What about stuff like this? Like if a Muslim lives in a certain area, a Muslim is not even a proper Muslim. If his neighbour, Muslim or non-Muslim, if his neighbour's hungry, your belly's full.
Well, you suggest
Rituals like this.
you present that to me, but I don't see that. But I do see that amongst Sikhs,
Okay.
and I'm sure you know this. So